Rob and Slim Show.
Hey, it's Jim Short here.
Jim, how you doing?
Brilliant. How are we, lads?
We're
Pretty
great,
good,
and
man.
that's what I was saying when you called. You're a real guest because the last guest stood us up.
I'm sorry I didn't catch that.
I said when you called, I said that's a real guest because the last one we were supposed to have, he stood us up. He didn't call.
He didn't. You got stood up.
Yeah.
Because it's for me, it's like a call in, and I'm like, it's like an appointment. It's like a date with destiny. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm on time. It's like when you're calling somebody for the first time. You're like, I don't want to call too early. I want to call too late. I wanted to get right on time, but I'm sorry that whoever would. I have to work extra hard to make up for the deadbeat that didn't just call. Have you just been bagging on this person, or what if it's like the worst thing happened to him? Later, I'm like, my entire family were in a bus and whatever happened, and then you've been ragging on them, and then you feel horrible.
He did. He
they can
messaged
at least
me.
Call. In this day of communication, they can at least call and go, my family died. Sorry,
Right?
I can't make it.
You can always call. You always have that phone in your hand. He
You
did.
always have. You can always text or something, or let somebody know.
He messaged me like right as we started the show that he's been swamped, but he still didn't say if he was calling or not. Like he still didn't say.
Oh, really?
Yes. He's
Left
like,
it in suspense, like cliffhanger, like maybe I'll get around to it. Well, as this person, I don't know anything about it. Have they been on the show before?
no.
But you're right. We did rag on him though, because as soon as he didn't call, we went to his Twitter, and he just looks like a douche. He's one of those.
He does look like a dummy.
One of those kids that he has pictures of himself with like $100 bills in his mouth, and another picture of him just. There literally was a picture where he had $600 in his hand, and it just said #rich, #wealthy, #young and rich.
Yeah.
Hashtag life savings.
Hashtag college fund.
Hashtag monopoly money. Well, I'm sorry that you guys got stood up, but I'm at least a man of my word.
Thank you.
And
Jim.
I'm here with no money in my mouth whatsoever.
Me neither,
I'm
bro.
of the people.
Jim, you've been doing comedy a long time, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad, because it's like if you're not well known and you've done it for 28 years, the people go, well, this guy must not be that good. But I think you kind of just, I started hitting up open mics in 1988.
Wow.
And when it's that far back, you have to say it that way. 1988. It sounds like it's ancient history.
It's funny because when you said it like that, I thought like, wow, that's a really, really long time ago.
It makes it sound like, but that's the thing. Like everybody now is like done stand up for 2 years and they're a superstar, and you go, well, wow, I've done it for 28 years and I'm not. I'm just getting by. But I mean, I've worked and worked and worked at it, and I've got a great respect for the craft, and I just feel like I've worked with so many brilliant people over the years. It's like you bridge. It's weird when you've done it for such a long time, because I remember starting out at 21 years old, being new on the scene, and everyone seems so lofty to a degree. You know what I mean? The guys and women who were doing stand-up before me, and now I'm sort of, they're still ahead of me, but you feel like you're on a peer level almost, and I see the newer acts, and I feel like, well, I'm almost like a bridge in between the older and the newer, but at some point you're just another old bloke to everyone else anyway. But I've done it, as I said, since 1988.
You were one of the guys. Like, there's been a couple others that I found. I'm like, how have I never heard of this guy? Like, your act's great. You've been on Letterman. You've been on Conan. Like.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us out there who just sort of like, I mean, the thing is, I feel like generationally, like I got into stand-up because you want to do it and you don't want to have a regular job and all the cliched answers. But like, if I was starting out now, I would try and find a way just to become famous in the next 5 months. And when I started out, it was like, how do I get to be the funniest I can ever possibly be? And for me, that's a never-ending sort of journey and a quest. And now it's like, what can I do that gets me, if I was young and starting out now, it would be just pranks and stunts and whatever things, because comedy is really, I mean, in comedy now, you're not only going against great comics and lesser comics, you're going against YouTube people and circus freaks and Chewbacca mum and everything. And you go, how do you compete with the circus freak show that is going on?
Yeah. We're trying.
There's a lot of great comics out there that, you may not have heard of, but, they put in the work and everything, and we're just sort of hanging in,
Yeah. Are you always a clean comic too? Because I did watch a bunch of your stuff, and you're funny, you're smart, and you're clean. Are you always a clean act?
You know what? It's always a debate about should you be funny or clean or dirty and so on and so forth. I mean, I made a conscious decision I wanted to get on television at some point. So you've got to have. It's funny when I see somebody go up and it's like they have to do 5 minutes of clean material and they're so freaked out. And I think, well, all you got to do is kind of just cut out all the swearing and this and that and whatever. I mean, I have no problem with people being really dirty or whatever because I love so many acts like that. But I feel like we've gotten into a culture of everyone just wants to have shock value stuff that is not really that funny. You know, I mean, to me, there's nobody funnier than Dave Attell. I think Attell is. I mean, people can talk about this one and that one. Attell is funny and hilarious, and he's really raunchy. But boy, you cannot beat the fact that there are amazingly great jokes in there. And for me, I mean, I just wanted to have an act that it's funny first, and then you can figure out afterwards if it's clean or dirty. Because you could always throw I would work, and the feature or the opener in front of me would be so raunchy dirty without any real merit to it. Not every one of them, but you're out on the road. And I just thought, well, you almost have to cut it all out just to stand out because the audience is like they've almost been beat over the head by it. So it's not like, I mean, I just tried to be clever and funny. And then, you can make the decision after that. But I mean, I'm not like a real raunchy dude anyway. But, because I always feel like the people like Schimmel and like I said, Attell and Jim Norton and guys like that, they really live that life. When they're talking about that stuff, there's nothing worse than seeing some 23-year-old dude going up there talking about hookers and cocaine and this and you go, you ever done any of that stuff? You're just doing your version. It's like a garage band doing their version of a big band.
Yeah, either way, you got to do
that.
yourself. Like that's why I like Louis C.K. because it's all stories of his life. Like you can't steal that. Like that's their own lives.
Well, it's authentic, and and you can always like. I mean, there's nothing. It's always like all the acts now that are Mitch type acts. Everyone who does the Mitch Hedberg sort of thing, or you can always tell who somebody's influenced by, and hopefully they'll grow out of that. But the Louis clones and the Attell clones and people like that. I think everyone starts out with an influence, and hopefully you bust out of it. But there's nothing worse to me than seeing somebody up there trying to be dark and edgy, and it's not working because they're not really. If you're not really that dark, edgy person inside, it's not going to come across. It's just going to come across as a lame attempt. So I think everyone should just. I mean, sometimes you got to get it out of your system and do that. But for me, it's just I just like to. The people I always loved were really clever and really interesting, and they were unique. And whether they were quote clean or dirty didn't really matter because they were really striving for great material, and that's always my desire is to be as funny as I can, and then you work it out afterwards what it is. But if you want to be on, TV is a bit different now, but I mean, it definitely 10 something years ago. To be on TV, you couldn't really be really dirty or edgy or anything like that because it just wasn't going to fly, especially on late night TV. But standards have changed a lot. But I love anyone that's really funny and authentic.
I was going to ask you too, going back to like dudes trying to be other dudes. What about ones that did get big, like Dane Cook and Carlos Mencia? Like, do they kind of like? Do they once they're found out for who they are? Like, do they not get work anymore or?
Yeah, well, you know what? The thing is, I always think that when there's such a meteoric rise like that, where do you go but down?
Yeah.
I mean, especially like Dane Cook, who, and I don't know Dane at all, and I saw it all happen as a comic that was sort of out there and whatever. I mean, definitely what you got to give that guy is the hustle and the marketing. What he did with MySpace and made that into that thing, and that's going to be his legacy, maybe even more than his comedy, because he showed everyone, for better or worse, that you can become a superstar, based on this marketing sort of thing, and maybe that's bedeviled us a little bit now because everyone's trying to become famous off of a tweet or something like that. But I think, honestly, when you're playing a hockey stadium, where do you go after that? It's going to come down at some point. So, I mean, there's been a lot of backlash on Dane and Carlos, two different examples of people that got gigantically huge. Dane's kind of backlash came when, people, this is not my opinion, but people were saying, well, he's not as funny as, or didn't keep up, or the people that were into him sort of grew, it went past the fad, maybe,
Yeah.
But, and Carlos, well, a lot of backlash because of his, activities, whether or not we want to accuse him of whatever. I mean, there's a backlash that hits, and I just think when you become meteoric like that, I mean, then you look at Louis. Louis, maybe not playing hockey arenas, but playing big theaters and everything like that, and he stayed in that realm. Why? Because he is an actual creative artist, maybe more than the other guys. And I'm not slamming anyone, but, I mean, Louis is the real deal, and the other guys are maybe a bit more possibly manufactured, at least in the industry's eyes. So I think that there's going to be a fall. Even Louis gets a backlash, people, because you can't create everything, but you can tell that that's a real deal guy right there that does generate that kind of material, and he speaks of his own experiences. So.
Well, I've heard like interviews with Louis, and he commits a lot of time into his craft. Yeah.
Well, because I think it comes from that thing of like, fame now is so weird. Like, what is fame? Who is famous? What, the people that become famous in our culture, not even just in stand-up. But I mean, for me, stand-up was always a thing where you didn't really get famous. Maybe if you did stand-up, you'd be that guy in the sitcom or the movie or the thing. I mean, Seinfeld got his show.
Yeah.
But it was rare that a stand-up would become a superstar. And I kind of like that about stand-up, where you would really do your stuff on stage and you'd have an album or whatever. This is a very older model of success that I was using. But, like George Carlin would be in a movie every now and then.
Yes.
But he wasn't a superstar. He was definitely a star. He was definitely well respected. But you know what I mean? He wasn't a superstar, famous dude like you have now. And that is the weird thing about our culture is, are people getting into stand-up because they want to be super funny, or they want to be super famous and super rich?
Exactly.
And it's a really weird time. And I mean, I just still respect all the people who can get up on stage and do an hour of material, and a solid hour, and be really interesting and unique. And that is just so much of what's going on in comedy now. You see somebody who might have been on a contest show on network TV, and they really don't have that 15 minutes, and then they're headlining places. And to some degree, that doesn't help comedy, but the club sells out because the person was on TV. Well, is that good? Does that really help that person in the long run, or next year are they replaced by the next person?
Yeah, that's
what I say about stand-up. It's a weird time in that we're not valuing somebody who can really do the time, but the fame audience, the people that only want somebody famous, they don't even know that they're not getting an hour of comedy. They're just happy to be in a room with somebody for an hour that they've seen on TV, struggling through an hour of comedy, So it is a weird time, If you respect what stand-up is and what it stands for and what it's always been, to me it's always like the loser kind of person that gets up there and is going, hey, everything's a bit jacked up right now, let me tell you what I think about it. That's to me what stand-up was. Now it's like male model soap opera looking dudes getting up there talking about, somebody wouldn't give them sex, and you're like, yeah, welcome to the real world, mate. I mean, you know what I mean? When you see a really good looking dude complaining about, his sex life, and you're like, dude, look at you. You probably were popular in high school. You shouldn't do stand-up.
Right? Yeah, you need to be a fractured, broken person to do the stand-up.
Yeah. Well, I always thought that was in there. Not that they were all like the sad clown thing or the tortured artist or whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, comics, and once again, an older model of a success thing is they were always people that just didn't quite function in it, And now it is a business. It is a marketing business. It's a business thing. It's a whatever, and so as somebody who just loves the purity of stand-up, for me, of all the people I've always idolized that do it, it is a bit weird because, when somebody younger than me asks, like, what's your advice? And you go, well, I would normally tell somebody, write, get on stage, do whatever. Now I'd be like, get younger and famous quick. That is get better looking and have the right pants.
Jim, I want to ask you, it's no secret you're from Australia, but was it a big culture shock when you came to the States?
It was indeed. I had visited, my family and I had visited a couple of times, so I sort of had an idea of it,
Oh.
But we moved to the States in 1979. I was 12 years old, and we ended up in Texas. We had no real plan. We were just kind of dust bowl drifters, I guess, But we had family in Texas,
okay.
And I tell you what, to come from somewhere like Australia. And a major city, and to live in a rural small town in Texas, for me, was a gigantic culture shock.
Oh, I can imagine.
And at 12, look, if you move across town at 12,
yes,
it sucks. It ruins your life, because you have your friends, my life, my bike, my stuff, my Legos,
Exactly.
But Texas was just and people will point out, well, it's similar, big wide open spaces and this and that and animals and things that'll kill you and it's hot, exactly, But you go, it's not Australia.
No.
So I think that did drive me to. I mean, I always loved funny people growing up, and whatever it is in your mind that goes, yeah, I want to be funny too. That is what sort of kept me going. And at that point, I mean, stand-up was just starting to explode on TV. There were a couple of stand-up shows, Evening at the Improv, its earliest incarnation. And then around about that time, Letterman came on in 1982, and I was 14, 15 years old in high school. And dude, when you hate where you live and you hate going to high school every day, and then here's Dave, this dude who's not playing the game like anybody else has ever done.
He was amazing.
I mean, it was revolutionary. I mean, we don't even think about now, like, now there's probably a talk show going on right now in the other room that's on TV right now, and there's a million hosts, but Dave was, you had Johnny Carson, who I always enjoyed, but Dave was like, oh, this is my dude, and I saw so many great stand-ups come out there, because Dave at that point, he didn't put up with celebrities coming on and acting like, I'm a celebrity and you need to kiss my ass. He would almost like, this is when people started saying he was rude to people and rude to guys. He was never rude to people. I'm such a Dave defender. He was never rude to people unless they really hassled him. And then he would just throw it out there and you go, man, I've never seen anyone on TV be a dick to people before.
He did a lot for...
He was groundbreaking, yes.
He did a lot for both comedians and musicians, because he would always have the latest bands.
Oh, the coolest stuff. I remember I think I got into Smashing Pumpkins because he had them on live, and I was like, these guys are great. He was really connected.
Well, it was a groundbreaking show, and if you just think of Johnny's era, I mean, on TV at that time, it was Johnny Carson was on at 10:30 or 11:30, depending on what time zone you're in. And then Dave was on after that. And on ABC, it was Nightline, and everything else, it was the CBS mystery movie or something like that. And so Dave comes on, and, Johnny would have the Johnny guests, the sort of the big bands or the crooners or whatever like that, which is all, as you get older, you appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
But Dave had, these amazing comics on there. And these, like you said, amazing bands. And as a teen at that point, not to get all nostalgic, but as a teen at that point, you go, I mean, this is my show. It was kind of like, SNL at that point also was, it was post the first group of people of Bill Murray and Aykroyd and Belushi. They'd gone. So SNL was in that sort of floundering period. So Dave, 4 nights a week, you go, dude, this is my show.
Yeah, that's.
And I saw so many brilliant stand-ups on that show at that point.
That reminded me too. Just you saying that was your guy. Like couldn't watch Leno for the longest time. I didn't start watching Leno till he was almost done, and I was like, and I was older at that time. You know, I was like, he is funny, but I had never even given him a chance because I like Dave so much.
Well, that, you know, the thing about it is, and I tell you what, I mean, I don't know what age of you guys are here. It's so funny because I remember in 2002, a few years back, I was working with Artie Lang in San Francisco. And Artie and I are basically the same age, and I don't really know him. I just worked with him that one weekend, you know. But he and I were talking about basically the same thing. And we were talking about how when Jay used to go on Dave's show back in the early days, when Jay would go on Late Night with David Letterman, and he would always have a bit. He'd have his TV guide. He'd come out on a motorbike, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the host was sitting in the room with us, and he looked at us and he went, "Wait a minute. Jay used to go on Dave's show. People forget."
Yes.
Yeah.
Before Jay had the Tonight Show, he was this guy that would go on Dave's show, and he would just murder it, man.
Yeah.
He would come out and he would be so funny, and he had his bits, "What's My Beef?" and he'd have the TV guide, and he'd riff on the TV shows, and just these bits. But it's so funny that like somebody a bit younger had no idea that these guys were. I don't even know what level of friendship they had. Definitely a professional relationship. But I saw Jay in 1986. It was one of the first big shows I ever went to. He did a concert up in Austin, Texas. And it was amazing. He did a couple hours of just nonstop stand-up. And for me, it was like, when Jay took over the Tonight Show, what you can't deny is Jay is a fantastic stand-up.
Yes.
But Dave is a broadcaster. Dave is a guy who can sit down at the desk and he can look at the camera and talk to you like you know, one person, even though there's millions of us, and he can just tell you about the shit that happened today that pissed him off. He can talk you through post 9/11. He can talk you through his heart attack, his affair, and you go, Jesus, this dude. And it's so funny because I just watched the Bill Murray tribute that was on PBS the other night, and you know, there's a bunch of stars and actors and whatever that come out. But when Dave comes out, he just does his chat about Bill. You go, there's nobody like this anymore. There's nobody who has that stature anymore. And it's not a put down of anyone else, but people just don't realize what David brought to television, what he brings to it all. And I mean, it's just, I think it changed our culture, whether people know it or not. But definitely from me seeing it from the beginning, you know, and as far as stand-up, there's just so many comics that were on at that time. It was unbelievable. And that's when I think comedy got a real boost as well, and being sort of cool. You go, well, this is a cool thing to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That, Jim, we have to wrap this up, dude, but thank you so much for talking to us.
Man, it was brilliant. Thank you so much for inviting me on, and I'm sorry that you guys got stood up. If ever you need someone, let me know.
Awesome, dude.
Man.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again, man. It was so great talking to you. And where can everybody find you?
Well, you know what? I'm online. I'm on the Twitter at Jimmy Shelter. I couldn't get my real name, so I put that on there. I'm on the Instagram. I'm getting my website back up. It's been down, and I got somebody redoing that stuff. But I'm online. I'm out there, so people can find me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Anytime. Have a good night.
Take care,
Cheers,
Jim.
man. Thank
Take
you.
care, dude.
You
Yep.
too.